Assalamu alaikum. I am your host Slim bin Mohammed Rafi, and here is my YouTube channel Zamir Universal. Today I am going to be talking to you about where is humanity stands today, and in spite of the fact since the creation of this world and the arrival of first our forefathers, Prophet Adam's peace be upon him, how have we changed? Have we changed for the good, or we have changed for the worst? The divine messages were sent to us times and times again, and recently the last messenger, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, I will take some parts from the time Prophet Muhammad was born, where he was born, what he preached, and what did he do, how he conducted himself, how he dealt with the idolatry, how he dealt with his idol worship, how he dealt with the falsehood and the cruelty inflicted upon the newborn female child, the slavery and feudal, wars between the different tribes. Unfortunately, what we see today is, and especially the Jewish Zionism and RSS in India has opened our eyes and really taken the lid off the dirt, the filth, the most cruel, the animalish part out of us, and taken the humanity to its 0 point. And we let it happen. And the pursuit of money, and the only criteria left in a human society was that whoever has got more money, irrespective whether he is a murderer, he is the most corrupt person on this world, he is a womanizer, he tells lies, he lives on interest, he kills, slaughters women and children, he commits war crimes, he does not obey any rules of society to live together. And I will prove that 1443 years ago, the message left by the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, where he specifically, told her explicitly the rules of war and the conquest of Makkah. Listen to what he said: all those behind doors are safe. All in Abu Sufyan's home are safe. All who do not fight are safe. So he could have killed everyone as the Jews killed in this current Gaza, and have taken the peace and tranquility of the whole world. Whole world is suffering on account of them. Let alone be the starvation they've used, and they cut water, they cut electricity, they stopped food going in there, the medicine going in there, and every piece of healthcare structure and institution they destroyed. They destroyed the very basic schools, colleges, universities, all research institutes, archives, museums, mosques, churches, synagogues. So you can understand where is at the moment the extent of cruelty, and you forget, the whole world will forget all the cruel people ever since the creation of this world. They have the top of the list are these Zionists, and do they have any right to exist, and would the rest of the world let them compromise there and pull them to that 0 station of human? It's all those people, millions coming out on the roads throughout the world, irrespective whether it's a Christian world or whether it's a atheist world or it's a Buddhist world. There have been demonstrations by humans. Someone is going and trying to reverse the idol worship, and you can see that what Prophet did at that stage, and they are going completely against. It's not only Zionists and Jews, we have many, many wolves covered with sheep, and you can see what the UAE, with the largest Hindu temple, and what they feed to those idols, and they call it prasad. And listen to the speech of the Pandit. He says that all that prayers you have done in the month of Ramadan and all that fasting, you have brought this to this idol in that temple, and you are now breaking your fast. Should this man be proud? This man with the broken teeth, and look at that big robe. So you can see now people converting back again into kafirs, mushriks, hypocrites, munafiqs, and denying that Kul ya ayyuhal kafiruna la abudu ma ta'buduna wa la antum abiduna ma abud la antum abiduna ma abud lakum dinakum waliyadin. This is exactly what that time the mushrik wanted, that you pray in front of these idols around Mecca, to Hubal and all those. You can see the women, and you can see sheep slaughtered and their blood being pasted to their naked thighs, and they are reverting back to it. And the leader who started this all, following and running after the money, was the UAE, became an example, and that is the example. Then Muhammad bin Salman, another. Nobody can say he is a Muslim, and nobody will say that the UAE Prince Rashid is a Muslim. They are not Muslims. They are wolves covered with the sheep and pretending to be a Muslim. And that's what is the reason why they are coward and they are afraid to die. And that is why they never helped millions of Gaza people starving, dying of dehydration and thirst. When you look at their skeletons, when you look at the starved people without homes, and you see the devastation and destruction of North Gaza, South Gaza, and now concentrated in Rafah, where they want to just corner them and kill them all, or push them in the Sinai desert. Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Pakistan, Indonesia, Malaysia. Look at the 57 Islamic countries. They are cowed down, and they are being now punished one by one, disgracefully, as there has been exit of Erdogan, a big liar who said, I will protect Al-Aqsa Mosque. Damn you and damn your drones and damn your jets that you covered. You have paid the price through your nose. And so would Pakistani people at the moment, hiding their F-16, their pilots, their guns, their missiles, the Gauris, everything is all nonsense. Even their nukes are just dust, because when you don't believe in God, you don't have any faith, you also go after money. And this is why since last 75 years, you have tried to beat one another the other. And even the latest plan, London plan, which did this to Pakistan, is now Pakistan nowhere in the international scene, is because, and covered. This is the reason why it is. When you go after money and you forget about your death, then that's what you will do. You have forgotten the last message the Prophet gave, that those who are present there, go and tell the others that don't take what you are not given or permitted by your brother. Every Muslim is brother of another Muslim. How could Prophet Abraham be a Jew? And how could he be a Christian? He was way before Moses, prophet, was born, and he became the prophet, and his followers are the Jews, and David and Solomon. And so is the Christ. Now, no Christians, no Jews, there are only one God, one religion, Islam, Muslims. So when Abraham was Muslims, then everyone was born out of his, the siblings or children is a Muslim. Whether you believe it or you don't, which God Almighty says in the Holy Quran, you won't. And this is why you see Muhammad bin Sulaiman returning the ideality in the sacred places like Taif and placing the women's bust there, allowing all the evil. And you can see that even a man like Hitler threw people out who started to promote homosexuality, idolatry, all kind of perversions in sexual and interest living on other people's blood and over-representation. And this whole thing is being brought back with Muhammad bin Sulaiman, another evil. With these things and with some shots to show you the cruelty of the present, the Zionists, who are again the wolves covered by sheep, and now this time they've been exposed, and with them Muhammad bin Sulaiman and Rashid and our in Pakistan and in Indonesia, Malaysia, Turkey, they've all been exposed as cowards. And cowards, you can see what is their fate. They die hundreds deaths, but the one who believes in God and believes that life and death is in his hand, he lives once and lives for then ever, and he never dies.
Everywhere the old civilizations were falling, Muhammad was born in Mecca, in Arabia. Mecca was then a rich trading city ruled by its merchants, whose wealth was multiplied by a unique privilege. They housed the gods. Every year, at the time of the Great Fair, the desert priests brought their idols and the images of their gods into the custody of the Kaaba. Once the most holy shrine of Abraham, the Kaaba had now become a house of idolatry.
Why must Muhammad come down here? Why don't you stop him? He's your nephew.
Maybe he'll change.
Change? He's 40 years old. It's unnatural. With a rich wife, he could afford the best of Mecca, yet he chooses to sit shivering in a cave. It is unnatural.
For a man who dares to risk the anger of Al-Uzza, who keeps our health, Manat, the god of our prosperity, Alat, the god of our family and tribes, and Hubal, who starts our caravans and predicts our fate.
To challenge the gods within earshot of the gods is dangerous.
Unreasonable.
Rebellious. Blasphemous.
Yes. I'm afraid Muhammad will harm himself.
In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. God gave this house to Abraham to be a sacred place. Worship no other gods but him, and cleanse his house.
Truth has come! Falsehood has fled away!
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله.
So it was. Muhammad took no revenge and allowed none. He declared Mecca a holy place. No one may shed blood or cut down a tree or kill a living thing in Mecca. Soon all Arabia was converted, not only to the new worship, but to the new laws, manners, attitudes contained in Islam. The Prophet...
Yes. To some, he's a revolutionary who has transformed life in Saudi Arabia, especially for women. To others, he's a butcher who fueled a bloody war in Yemen, and the CIA believes approved an operation to kill or capture a Washington Post journalist who was cut up with a bone saw. Now, thanks to the global energy crisis, the Crown Prince looks stronger than ever, and world leaders are queuing up to get their hands on his oil.
I think the kingdom is in a uniquely powerful position with what is happening in Ukraine.
So what will he do next?
MBS is a very dangerous man who is becoming more dangerous because of the power he's accumulating.
After hours in Saudi Arabia, men and women mixing freely, and a female DJ on the decks. The Economist's Nicholas Pelham was filming the scene.
I think I had to do a double take. It was really quite an astonishing sight.
Just a few years ago, all this would have been illegal. Public entertainment was banned, and unmarried men and women were not allowed to socialize.
Saudi Arabia, for all the time that I've known it, until about the last 5 or 6 years, has been a society where public space was ruled by religious police. What I found so hard to grapple with was just how normal it all felt. I don't understand how you can live with one set of values and then supplant them with another as if nothing had really happened.
In the past, Saudi Arabia was governed according to a strict interpretation of Islam. Clerics controlled everything, from social life to the role of women.
The kingdom really was ruled through a joint venture, if you want, between the royal family and the hardline religious establishment. And it was an ultra-conservative establishment. You know, controlled education, controlled the public narrative.
That was until the rise of Mohammed bin Salman. The young crown prince stripped the clerics of their power, increased women's rights, including giving them the right to drive, and all in a radically short period of time.
If you look at it in a historical context of what societies had to go through to neuter their conservative right-wing religious class, that usually only happened with civil wars. This has all happened without a single cleric being, killed or no violence on the streets. And I think that is virtually miraculous, really.
So who is the man behind these changes? MBS is a millennial who enjoys flaunting his wealth. He splashed out over £200 million on a French chateau. The Economist was given a rare chance to sit down with him in 2016. and found a prince ready for power.
There wasn't a single question that he shied away from. His responses were imaginative and detailed, and he was forthcoming. And I think what came across perhaps most stridently was a sense of conviction. He really believed in his ability to change the kingdom.
Despite his confidence, few could have predicted MBS's rise. In Saudi Arabia's ruling dynasty, the House of Saud, power usually passes sideways, from brother to brother. MBS's father, Salman, had several older brothers ahead of him in line for succession. But when two died, he was able to take the throne, opening up the way for MBS to succeed him. Although he still had several older half-brothers ahead of him in line for the throne.
It wasn't clear that the line of succession was going to pass from one generation to the next. And if you were going to move to the next generation, there were many princes who were far better known. Mohammed bin Salman was an unknown quantity.
But his father, Salman, had a soft spot for him. So when he became king in 2015, he increased MBS's portfolio. These are just some of the titles he was given. Then in 2017, according to insider reports, MBS forced his cousin to step aside as crown prince.
There seemed to have been something of a standoff. Mohammed bin Naif and his guards were disarmed. Mohammed bin Naif was told that your time is up. The Council of Allegiance has decided that you are no longer the crown prince and I'm going to fill your shoes.
After this, MBS wasted no time in cementing his power.
It's a shakeup sending shockwaves across the kingdom and the world. Saudi Arabia detaining top officials in a sweeping corruption probe.
He invited the wealthiest men in the kingdom, along with the world's business elite, to a conference on the future of the Saudi economy, a self-styled Davos in the desert. And a short time later, he used the opportunity to hold many of them in a luxury hotel.
He rounded up the leading princes and the richest businessmen, interrogated them, got them to reveal their banking details. Thereafter, it was very clear that the real only ruler in the kingdom was now Mohammed bin Salman.
Since then, his aggression and repressive behavior have escalated. He has consolidated power around his own court. Human rights groups estimate thousands have been detained. And in March this year alone, 81 were executed.
The government has maintained an extremely tight control of society. And I think that is a price the kingdom has had to pay for social peace as it transitions through this wrenching process.
Some are much more skeptical. Khalid al-Jabri says he knows firsthand how brutal the regime can be.
When all you have is a hammer, everybody becomes a nail. That's exactly what MBS is doing. And his list of victims will keep expanding inside and outside Saudi Arabia unless somebody decides to put a check on him.
Khalid lives in America, but his roots are in Saudi Arabia.
I come from a big family in terms of Western standards. I'm the eldest, 6 boys and 2 girls, including Omar and Sarah. They were funny, smart, very, very ambitious.
In 2017, Omar and Sarah were banned from leaving the kingdom. 3 years later, they were seized by the authorities.
There were 20 unmarked civilian cars that showed up with 50 officers in plain clothes that went into the house and basically took Omar and Sarah.
Khalid's father was an advisor to the former crown prince, Mohammed bin Naif. Khalid thinks his siblings' travel ban has been used by MBS to try to pressure his dad to return to the kingdom. And he has seen messages from MBS to his father, which he believes support this.
What's so unique about our case is Mohammed bin Salman can deflect responsibility on rogue agents or that he doesn't know about it.
It's a complicated story. Khalid's dad is also accused of stealing billions of dollars from the Saudi government, which he denies. Meanwhile, Khalid worries about his own security.
I think, like my father, I made peace with the fact that one day I will probably be harmed.
And who can blame him? MBS has famously been linked to the murder of outspoken former royal court insider and journalist Jamal Khashoggi, who was dismembered with a bone saw in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. Nicholas knew him personally.
We were due to meet actually in Istanbul the weekend that he disappeared. I think Mohammed bin Salman, he wanted to send a message that this is what happens when you question my authority.
MBS has said he takes responsibility for the murder, but denies ordering it. For a time, it looked like the killing could jeopardize the kingdom's relationship with one of its closest allies, America.
We were going to, in fact, make them pay the price and make them, in fact, the pariah that they are.
Saudi Arabia has long been a strategic ally in the Middle East. Successive presidents have happily sold arms to Saudi leaders.
We really have a great friendship, a great relationship. Crown Prince, thank you very much. Thank you for being here.
It's also home to the world's largest accessible oil reserves. And thanks to the energy crisis caused by the war in Ukraine, President Biden's threats now look empty.
The message from Ukraine has been that the global economy still depends on oil from the Gulf. It was also significant that it wasn't just Biden who came to Saudi Arabia. It was also the most powerful leaders in the Arab world. It was almost as if Mohammed bin Salman was sending the message, I am your address in the Middle East. If you want to have a relationship with the Middle East, if you want to keep Russia and China away from dominating the region, deal with me.
So where might change come from? Let's start in the kingdom itself. There may be little overt opposition, but some, including religious hardliners, are unhappy with his reforms.
Mohammed bin Salman really is ruling by fear. I saw it on my recent visits more than I've ever seen it before. It does beg the question, as it has for other totalitarian leaders in the Middle East, how long can you continue to rule by fear and by force? And at what point could there be a breaking point?
Another weak point is the economy. Since taking power, he has dedicated himself to diversifying the kingdom away from oil, with everything from tourism to flashy eco-cities, like Neom.
You see ancient lands. We see the world tomorrow. This is Neom.
But despite the glossy PR promises of new cities in the sand, unemployment is still in double figures, while many of the oil-related subsidies Saudis have traditionally enjoyed are gone.
He hasn't really had much success in diversifying revenues. The kingdom is still heavily dependent on oil and looks as if it will be for the foreseeable future. So what does that mean if he can't deliver? And if you see a rise in economic frustration, there's a huge question mark as to whether that could also translate into political frustration.
So what about threats beyond the kingdom? The most immediate is right on his doorstep, in Yemen. As defense minister back in 2015, one of the first things MBS did was intervene in a bloody war to crush Houthi rebels, who were being supported by the kingdom's arch-rival, Iran. But 7 years on, the Houthis have forced the better-armed Saudis into a ceasefire, which still leaves the kingdom looking exposed.
Well, the kingdom is very vulnerable. Houthis have been succeeding in getting through, although Saudi air defense have improved their game considerably over the past couple of years. But still, the kingdom is a very wide geographic space, and that makes it particularly vulnerable to drones and other projectiles that come either from Iran or from Iran's proxies.
But perhaps the greatest threat to the Crown Prince might be MBS himself. He's shown himself to be ego-driven, aggressive, and impulsive. And perhaps it's only so long before he makes a fatal misjudgment.
Is it his own recklessness? Is it his own brutality? Is it his own desire to be the only voice in the kingdom that could ultimately prove his undoing? For sound policy, you need to have people who can say no. And at the moment, in Saudi Arabia, everyone is too scared to say anything but yes.
We put the allegations in this film to the royal court in Saudi Arabia. It declined to comment. But in response to a related piece about MBS in The Economist, it denied all allegations against the Crown Prince, insisting they are fabricated and without foundation. It continued, the kingdom is unfortunately used to false accusations made against its leadership, usually based on politically or other motivated malicious sources.
My name's Nicholas Pelham. I'm the Middle East correspondent for The Economist.
The third person that we want to honor is the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, or as they affectionately call him, MBZ. I want to take a moment to explain to you why we're honoring His Excellency the Crown Prince. There is no leader in the Muslim world that has influenced the decisions that are being made to move the Muslim world to support the State of Israel more than this Crown Prince. He may not be taking the credit for it, but I can tell you, having met with him, he is, in fact, the key person that's leading. What I saw in the country under his leadership was astonishing. A total re-education program against anti-Semitism, including in the mosques, among the mullahs. They don't allow them to preach jihad and Jew hatred anymore. But in addition to that, I learned a lot when I was with the Crown Prince. He told me he understands Jewish people because his mother was Jewish. Well, he told me it was really his father's house director, and she was an Ethiopian Jew. He also told me his personal feelings about Israel, and he said the Palestinians have a simple solution. They need to copy Israel. They need to copy Israel. He was very impressed with Israel and not so impressed with the corruption among the Palestinians. Keep your eyes on this Crown Prince. He's one of the most brilliant men living on the planet, one of the most articulate, and one of the most forward thinkers. I can tell you virtually everything that's moving forward in the Sunni world, I believe, is because of his leadership. And that's why we want to honor the Crown Prince with the Friends of Zion Award.
यूनिवर्सल टेलीविजन को सब्सक्राइब करना ना भूलें, उसके बाद बेल बटन पे क्लिक करें और अपने कमेंट्स के सेक्शन में अपने कीमती जो ख्यालात का इजहार ज़रूर